Yes, it is.
Welcome, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the council meeting of April 14th. Call, please.
Love it.
Yeah.
Miller. Ready? Here. Bishop.
Here.
Back over here. And we're check. And keep it here.
Next item is pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. United States. Thanks for being here tonight to conduct business in the village. We pray for all the people who have gone south for the winter and are safely returning throughout town. Thank you. Amen.
Thank you, Dan.
There is none, so we'll get that. We'll go on to consent agenda. I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda, the bill to be paid in the sum of $24,623.85. Got a first, can I get a second, please?
I'll second.
Got a first and a second, any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Right. Yes. Miller. Yes. Bishop.
Yes.
Longley.
Yes.
Keynote.
Yes.
Miller. Yes. Schmacko. Yes.
The next item will be approval of a regular agenda. May I get a motion for that? I'll make a motion that we approve the regular meeting agenda as written. Got a first, can I get a second, please? Thank you, Gary. First, second, any discussion? 15, roll call.
Right. Yeah. Schmacko. Yeah. Longley.
Yeah.
Miller. Bishop.
Yeah.
Keynote.
Yeah.
English. Yeah.
Okay, next item is manager. That's all. Pretty good morning. Welcome everyone. Nice to meet you. We're trying to get them over before the weather changes on us. Just to make that all the girls say 4 or 5 weeks from now, we're going to flowers. Well, if they're warm up a little bit more, I think we'll get it. Couple updates here on the South River Center. They're moving right along. The electricians are wearing it. Even as today, we're talking about the landscaping that we have to do on the blue side, blue side of the structure. We're going to put a retaining wall through there to so there's not the drop off, the 2-foot drop off that some of the wall off that or some of them that perfect help kind of block some of that there's lane that we're gonna pull down and jazz up little steps in there and stuff like that. So we're starting to design that right now. So that's coming along. The Hiawatha project moving right along. You might see it surrounded in case in plastic. That's because they're heating it up so they can get the brickwork done on the inside. That the wiring is I think Fred done their just had to do an inspection. Bathrooms are coming along nice. I placed a call to the company that they're gonna put in the dock, the kayak launch and left the message for just to see when they are gonna do that. You want to wait till the water look down instead of the research out, so hopefully we can do that soon. So there is some work by the gazebo that needs to be done. I can call American Parks that did the gazebo work there. I think on our last day the weather turned and they kind of rushed it and cement work did not turn out to our satisfaction. So we're still holding out payment and waiting to get some type of agreement or understand what they're going to come back and fix that. I think you were included on an email that showed our invoice that was overdue for they did not ask for any money up. Sometimes when it's do because that's about 50% before this started, and they're 50% when it's completed. They didn't ask for any prepayment. And I even remember reaching out to them and asking them about sure, you don't need something now, you know, to get going, and no, we'll just put it at the end, well, now they want payment, but, the accountant that you have email from, when I talked to, his name's Matt, when I talked to him, I told him about the Mexico story, about what happened, when I sent him some pictures, he just said, oh, they didn't tell me the whole story here, and so, anyway, that's, taking care of, there isn't any issue right there, other than we wanna, like, get that fixed. The nice thing about the Hiawatha project is definitely, attracting a lot of attention, a lot of comments. Uh, we have, the American Veterans Affairs that have reached out to me, they'd like to hold, uh, uh, an event there this spring to have, to showcase the veterans in this community and what they do to contribute to our community. And they would like to hold an event there, probably in August. And let them read that and annual, event. They asked me when it comes to rent, you guys get a rate, just let us know, we'll get set up and stuff like that. So people have been calling about, hey, can we use this for graduation, or can we use this for reunion? We got a reunion on the schedule this summer. So it's hopefully going to be a nice attraction for our community. We've been working on, is that time of year where you seek out what's available out there in grants. And just posted a grant, it's a community service infrastructure fund grant. It won't be available until 2026, but the paperwork, whether you have to give a letter of interest, we'll probably have to get that by the end of June. This grant is worth up to $250,000 with a 50% match. Doesn't cost us anything to apply for it. Again, that infrastructure we had thought, well, if we went ahead with that, we could of course put that towards the risk development property that started being that infrastructure before the housing goes in there, as well as our industrial park. So we got a couple. We got that. Amanda and Jim shared with me, Mishka, they're offering a housing and infrastructure grant. This grant has a little larger purse behind it. We can ask for $3 million if we wanted to. And we have to give them a letter of interest since you get our name on the list. This money here, we would, pretty much tag it for the infrastructure for the new housing development. So we have a couple grants kind of going for the same thing. You know what, just because you apply for a grant doesn't mean you get it. And so we thought, well, we can throw our name in a couple hats, maybe one on before you get, so we can get something going there. I'll keep you posted on it. Let you know our rental agreement with Fleet Savannah for the office space that's been renewed. We moved the rental from $500 a month to $600 a month. That agreement is good through to the end of April of 2026. So we're sitting pretty good for that. Spruce Live. 48 hours. I've kind of done a 180 on that. Last Thursday, I drafted a letter to the owner, citing them for violation on 2 of our ordinances. The dangerous structure ordinance and nuisance ordinance. And so on Thursday, I sent that letter off to our attorneys to look at it, just to make sure maybe there's some wording in there they didn't want it differently or whatever. And I believe I said something to you guys before about back in either late 80s or early 90s, there was an insurance agreement or insurance agreement for municipalities where if you register yourself and you're on that list and you have to have a structure fire, the insurance company would mail or send 25% of that claim to the municipality just in case the cleanup didn't occur when you want it to occur, so you have the money, or you could get someone to demo one, clean it up, something like. Well, I was told by State Farm that we were not on that list. So when I spoke to our attorney, well, I did a little research, you could select up 96. And so now I'm back in touch with the owner, because they received the full funding for it, and like you got insurance from someone that has, and so I worked on that on Thursday and Friday. And then today, Fran received a phone call from a gentleman that is contracted to start demo, and he wants to start this week. Uh, so I still hang on to that letter until I see something going on. He has to get a demolition permit. And his goal is to start in the backyard and just start cleaning up the area. And he knows it's not gonna take multiple dumpsters. So he will start with a couple dumpsters there and fill those up and keep rotating around with the and chip away at this. So I gave him the application because he has to have proof of insurance and some of the other things, and we talked about it. When he goes to knock down the front of the building, that we should, square up the roads so we don't have debris going out of the road. The only tricky part there is when you think about what that is not so much deterrent traffic. That you could send them down 6th Street or like that with the semi. Is that the fine area I'm sure Brian doesn't want semi don't pass it. And we have to just kind of look at that. He said he thought that would be road, it would be just for a short period of time during at the end of the night it would be open again. So he would keep chipping away at that aspect. But anyway, he was that was a very welcoming phone call. And so at least I got someone that's been contracted and he's scheduled to do it. So I'll keep you posted on that. The 15th, we're hosting a meeting for all the eateries in business that sell food or restaurants, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk to them about some of our activities and some of our events in town, about maybe setting up or giving them the opportunity to set up a booth and sell sandwiches or whatever. There's some things that we have had some good luck with some of the mobile food units, and we have some of them that are just. It's been kind of changing, but I know when talking to some of the business owners, they say, when you have that event, and you got it there, no one comes here. So we said, okay, let's try to support local business today, but at least sit down and talk about it. And maybe we may have to amend our mobile food performance, to say, okay, no food truck can be within so many feet of an existing restaurant and something like that on that day. But anyway, it's just to start the discussion. So we have a plan that we can go ahead and for the summer and some of the guests coming up. So we thought
What time is that?
it is usually 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock tomorrow here, right here. Right there. So on Thursday of this week, we will have our morning for the management gate and 5 family meetings at the same time. Dan will be our MC kicking off the meeting and we get things going. That starts at 9 o'clock in the morning. We have to do this just once a year. We do it twice in April and October. So as that meeting starts at 9 and 10 o'clock, we are hosting the Roscommon Township Association meeting here. Jim Perriello started attending some of these meetings, and then Jim kind of learned what I learned before too. And you can attend, you can contribute, but you have no vote, you have no say. So So Jim had petitioned, the association to see if it's possible that village route kind of could have, a role. And I guess that's on the agenda for Thursday, so we're, I think the Roscommon project for the Roscommon Township. You're calling a Roscommon Township, Long Township, okay.
Roscommon County, Township.
Okay. So anyway, we're gonna have a lot of people coming and going in a short period of time. We're just trying to let the folks know where they can park and stuff like that. So we don't all try to get that. So other than that, I think that's all I have to share.
Do we have a time frame on how much I take care of who's stuff? On this done what we got?
No, he felt that it would be 20 dumpsters. So his thought was to, let's just clear the grounds first, and then go for chipping away at it. I let him know that we have the water capped off, but there's, once he gets pulls the rail out and the sewer hooks up in the basement here, as an order for taking basement out, we have a bigger sewer getting back to the, I don't have the cost for both of those. That foundation, once that's removed, we are gonna request that the sand, dirt that have been there, rest of finally. So there's no negotiation.
Yeah, I was just kind of wondering time frame, because I mean, you know, if you have a time frame, we could take all summer, take, you know, that's a split big one man show. Yeah, one man show type thing. I mean, I think we need to put a time frame on it, hey, we need that done.
We see it kind of in terms of being the concept.
I'd like to, I've not seen it in the contract, and this is where, the owner of the building that received the money is the one that set this up. So all we're gonna see when we have the permit is make sure he's insured. And, but, name of it is,
Joel,
something builders of, I want to say from like Traverse City or Oklahoma area, so Joel Patrick, that who's doing it? No. So anyway, this name Joel, I got the information on the website. Yeah.
Right, excuse me, I remember when the colonial was torn down, Bob and Dave Hoffman, it's not. I mean, it's a lot easier than you can imagine. You were only took them a couple days.
No.
And that thing was a lot better shape than the spruces. I'm thinking maybe they might hit the spruce at the right place. The whole thing went, well, what if we took out some pizza and what I played? 3-4 days with that and then the restaurant, but it was working around the clock.
Just don't get too excited. Yeah, we've done this before.
Any other questions for Ron? Okay, if not, we'll move on to public announcement and agenda item 2 minutes per speaker. Tony.
Tony Medina, village resident. And I see, you guys got the left run for the discussion item on the agenda. I don't know if that's gonna be about, maybe with policy or something, but myself, I don't want my water run because there's so many issues over the years that I don't want to pay for the water. And it sounds like that's kind of what happened this year. You had a bill was adjusted or whatever, people calling it, but there's so many issues and I hear so many different things. We do this, we do that, and when it comes down to it, it's a different way every time. And I sent you guys an email, all the council members an email earlier last month. Well, one of you got back with me. It comes to the issues I had, so I don't know if you guys don't care. Maybe you're not sure of your role, who you represent, but what I do know is there's an ongoing issue with the water. You should be right.
Thanks, sir. Any other comments? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the next citizen, which is DPW report.
For two triggers for each month. I think I talked about this last month, molten hog, we had a hydraulic leak on it.
That's been repaired now, and brushes have been installed for the sidewalk sweeper. We're currently waiting to coordinate with the county, that when they come through, we want to be here the day before, whatever, sweep the sidewalks, so that it's pushed out and then they get it off the sidewalks. So that's waiting to happen, and I think that will happen fairly shortly, although the county is behind a little bit right now with trying to help them. Counties in Michigan and everything else. Hole patching of the village streets, we performed that on April 10th. I had talked last month about the different reports that we had to do and turn in for Eagle for the water reports and claims. The 2024 Consumer Confidence Report is due in July. I have already submitted that to Eagle and it was approved on March 13th. And it was emailed to the health department on March 17th. It's also available now currently on the village website. And it has been published in the resorter as required by law. So we are way ahead of the game on that. And everything will be taken care of. Talked last month again about how we had the new generator finally hooked up at the main level. The new generator is not, or the old generator, excuse me, it's sitting at Brook Street. I'm awaiting a quote from DTE to put a gas line in for that so that we can get that hooked up and get that going. Some projects that we worked on last month, or a project, I should say. The sewer line over at 709 Shelley and also for 309 Fifth Street, which is the transmission shop. For 709 Shelley, there are 4 or 5 homes on one lateral line that run into the main, that ran into the main, not into a manhole. And my understanding has been a continuous ground plugging up. The transmission shop plugged up 3 weeks ago, where we actually had some guys over and clean the floors. So we went in last week and dug that whole thing up and replaced most of the lateral line coming off of the site or the driveway on Shelley address. And that now goes into the manhole, so that can be jetted out and cleaned if it needs to be in the future. So hopefully we got that one all set. We were scheduled to begin today a new water and sewer hookup for the addition at the property on 1202 Exeter Court. That's an addition being online the home, and they've elected to have a separate sewer and separate water line brought into the addition because it's at a lower grade. That was set up to be done with the contractor today, but it ended up changing, so that's going to probably happen. He's wanting it to be at the end of this week. I'm going to push for that, probably going to next week. I don't want to start that project on Thursday of a holiday weekend, have that road shut down for God knows how long, and God forbid there's actually a problem that happens on a Friday afternoon going into it. So try to push that project off to the following week. DTE already went in and put the gas line in today. I went over and looked at that. That is done. You probably drove by it a few times.
No, I went around. I went around to.
Last month, the entire DPW department attended the annual Michigan Rural Water Association annual conference. That was held in Traverse City. Obviously, first time I've been to it. We all took a lot away from it. Very valuable for what we can learn in that conference. And it's, different classes, we didn't in the same seminars or anything else. One of the things that we did find out as we were going through the vendor list and stuff, we're looking at a possible pilot program where there's a company out there that has a machine that will actually filter out the phosphorus from our wastewater treatment. I'm not sure if it's going to work for us yet or not, but that's probably the biggest problem that we have at the water treatment plant is getting phosphorus at that low enough level. It has to be 2.0% milligrams per liter phosphorus. And my understanding is that once we start discharging, we hover right around that 1.94, 1.92. Again, I don't know if this is gonna work for us, but if we find out that it might, it's a pilot program, it's not gonna cost us anything, they're gonna be able to bring this machine out to us at no charge. It's a 120-volt hookup, and we just got to plug in, but we gotta see if it's gonna work for us first. And that's just one of the things we took away from the conference that we looked at. Andrew and myself met with Morgan from Flight and Vanderbrink last week. This is also something that kind of ties into the conference, but something that we had looked at before. I'm not sure if you're aware of ArcGIS. We use it quite a bit in the village. It's becoming more and more useful. Right now, we currently have all of the water lines, all of the sewer lines, all of our lateral lines that we know of, all of these things, fire hydrants, everything is not done on GIS, so we can look at that. It can all be layered and do different things, but in that conference, we attended 2 different classes. We're not utilizing it anywhere near what capabilities are. And I'll use fire hydrants as an example. We can set up fire hydrants that we have a dashboard set up that this one needs to be flushed. This is flushed. So we can look at it and go in on a weekly or monthly, day by day, whatever that basis is to say, here's some work for us for today. Here's what we need to go do. So we worked with Morgan, and she's going to put some programs together for us. I'm happy to say that in talking with Morgan, we utilize GIS way more than most other communities do, but that's not good. We need to utilize it more. So, spring light pole banners, or spring banners, I should say, have been installed by Jerry last week. One of the issues that we've had out at the plant is we do not have Comcast or Spectrum, whatever you want to call it, for internet out there. We were on Frontier wireless, 7.1 megabytes per second. That doesn't work. It goes down constantly. We did some research, reached out to Starlink, and we out Starlink as a week and a half ago. We're actually going to save probably about $60 a month being on Starlink, and our speeds are constantly running anywhere from 100 megabytes per second to 200 megabytes per second, which is one, we need it to be able to communicate. I can now be at the plant and log on my laptop and go through the DSL with Zoom. But as we go continually forward, I'm sure you guys get the different emails. Cybersecurity is a huge issue for wastewater treatment, water treatment, everything else. We need to have a dependable service out there. Starlink isn't the best, but when we looked at having Spectrum come out and run a line to us, it was over $47,000, I believe. So I think Starlink will work for it for a while. One other thing is that in your budget, you guys approved for this year with for the pickup for the KPW print. They had sent out bids for a new truck from mixtures and from Hart. They'll come in at a cheaper bid. Their truck is $41,720.40. The Chevy was from Nestor's was a couple $1,000 more than that. So we've got a little bit fair price. Chevy also doesn't have a blue truck. Hard to believe that you don't have a blue truck, but they don't have a blue truck this year. And then, the big thing was the cost. And so those are pretty important weeks, and we have one of that truck. It'll probably be approximately 8 to 10 weeks before that truck would be. Only other thing I guess I would add, obviously, there is something on the agenda tonight about the let run. Just giving my 2 cents on the let run. The let run is not to the village to protect themselves. The let run is to protect all of our pipes are going to freeze up. Look around. if the homeowner chooses not to do a wet run, they're the ones taking the chance of their pipes freezing in the house. It can be a lot more costly when a pipe freezes and or breaks inside the house and causes a problem. It's not the building's problem. That's a homeowner have to repair it. I monitor every day. I'm in the office. I have Tammy Health also. We look at through census, it shows us how many people are having a continuous flow on their wet runs or water flow, whatever you want to call it. If we measure one, it shows us if there's a break in the line. We just had one a couple weeks ago that most is not anybody in it. And all of a sudden the wet run shows up on it. Their pipes froze up under the house because they never shut them off. There's no one in the house. Again, that's on those people who have to pay for them. But that being said, again, we monitor that every day that we're in the office. The most I ever saw was 33 people in a wet run in 1 week period throughout the whole winter. So, I think that's it. Any questions for me?
On your mapping system, can you do like sewer drains and stuff like that too?
Yes.
So,
We also have the capability that, like, this new sewer line that we just include Silver and Shelley. We haven't done it yet. We're going to go back out there. We have the GPS unit that will hook to our GIS. We're going to be able to, because that line comes out from the straight through those 4 properties, and then takes a jig over, and then comes over. And now, obviously, it used to go this way, and now it's going this way into the manhole. We will be able to just go and pinpoint that all the way through. So that's one of our goals going forward is anytime we do any work, we want to make sure we're taking that unit back up with us and mapping every one of those lines.
no, thanks, Doug. Any questions for Doug? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next starting up, there's Mr. Ferriello, Economic Director. Good evening, happy spring. Start off talking a little bit about the globes. They were set to the Michigan Crime Victims' Rights colors last week, which were rather melon and some other kind of fruity names to the colors, but basically it was orange, blue, and pink. Purple. Anyway.
It was wonderful.
Here it is Easter week, and so we've had some requests for some pastels. I have my
Clicker. Your clicker doing?
trusty dusty
Depends on who's.
low color mode. So right after the meeting, if you follow me in my car, you can see what new color you stand. On to some serious stuff here. We had 7 mom grant submissions from businesses. That deadline has passed. Our committee met, BDA members, Ron, Amanda, myself, and we sent what we believe were the 2 best applications that were successful at the state level. As mentioned earlier, we have had some success with mom grants in the past. There's a lot more competition these days, but we have a lot better grant writer in-house now with Amanda. I know you guys know, I mean, the yard is still prolific for grant writing skills are. And so we're very hopeful on those. I can't really tell you at this point who those businesses are, but you'll know soon enough. As Ron mentioned, the Roscommon County Townships Association meeting is here Thursday at 10 o'clock. We're on the agenda, hoping to become voting members. But the speaker, the actual scheduled speaker today is County Drain Commissioner Jay Shepke. And he's going to talk a little bit about flooding, drainage, proper drainage, drainage. Remember, it's flooding right now. So that's going to be the topic of discussion. I mentioned that you're all welcome. In general, there are 11 townships. They will bring anywhere from 1 to 3 board members or representatives to this meeting. It's an interesting collaborative sort of thing because what I found traveling, and I know a number of you go to other types of council, whether it be township meetings or county level meetings or other sorts of meetings, and just getting out of our bubble and finding out what everybody else is doing really is helpful. We see what other communities are doing and we ask questions. We find out where'd you get from that? Where did you buy that from? And who did you hire to do this and that? And these collaborative township meetings are really interesting, how they play themselves as occasionally a speaker, but a lot of it is just, hey, this is what we got going on in our township. If you guys have any questions about how we built this pavilion or grants we tried to access, it's very interesting and it's a great learning tool. In that vein, the Region 3 of the MEDC, which is our binary middle finger of Michigan on our hand, has we meet monthly. We call it a CDC. It's a Collaborative Development Council. And so it's economic development folks, village managers. It's representatives from MEDC and all the different state MDAR and all of these different state agencies. And we get on a Zoom call and you just say, hey, this is what we're doing and we need a little help here. One time you were asking about public art and it turned into, hey, go check out Alpina. And so we did. And so now we have this public art initiative going on. Once a year, that CDC meets somewhere in the region for a live face-to-face with state level speakers. Your registration deadline is free on here. We call it Kirtland Community College, not this Thursday, but next Thursday. And so if that's something you want to attend, you do have to register and just get a hold of me if they say you can't register because of the timeline. I know the organizer or they can get you told if that is something that you might be interested in. It is open to the public, and that will be at Kirtland Community College next Thursday. Social District grand opening, we have scheduled at Memphis before May 10th. We'll have a ceremony right out in front of the village hall here. The time right now is 3 p.m. That's still good. But we're also that's going to be in conjunction with a certain brewery's grand opening across the street nearly the same time. So watch for that. And I just want to tell you that I just have a little plug for Amanda, our CEDM fellow, and she is gone today, tomorrow, and Wednesday to Lansing, representing our community with other CEDM folks, and she has done just an amazing job. She's come in and just taken this town by storm. Really, she's very motivated, very intelligent, and I think we were really lucky to be able to fall into her at low cost. If you remember, there was a $10,000 application fee for the village and the DDA that was split, and for her 15 months. Hopefully it doesn't come too quick, but any of you that have had any firsthand dealings with Amanda, you know that I'm not just going overboard with the praise here. It's something that I haven't seen in a long time. So that's all I have. Any questions for Mr. Perriello? Okay, how's the bird thing going? The bird thing is great. As a matter of fact, on somewhere later in your agenda, there was a request that Ron will talk a little bit about that. She's raised more than they have raised, more than half, mostly to your friends, more than half of the $35,000 needed for that statue. We are going to move forward with contracting with the sculptor as more fundraising opportunities. We're quite confident that that full amount will come in. And in time for the Kirtland Walnut Cup the first week in June. I'm going to do a search for people who have bluebirds nesting on their property. That is a rare bird too. They're not the blue jay, it's a little bluebird. I know the golf course has some. when Ken Melvin had some in his place, but I don't know. So I'm gonna run some stuff on Facebook and just see how many people will respond to that.
Are you asking for a bluebird statue now?
But I just remember when I was a little kid, out down in Pennsylvania, my mother threw, when we got snow, she'd throw the right out. There were a lot of them. They just disappeared. You know, so. I just thought it was. That's all I have.
Question for Mr. Curio.
Thank you.
If not, we'll move on to the 2024 audit review. Mr. Trey.
Good evening. See a lot of familiar faces, myself, those that you don't know, or those that have chosen to forget me. My name's Trent Calder, UHY Cadillac. I'm doing the audit here for several years and go through some of the highlights of that tonight. If you've got any questions for me as I'm going through, feel free to interject with those. That will get started. Page 1 of your report is the independent auditor's report. This is where I give my opinion on the financial statements. I'm happy to report that the village received what we consider to be an unmodified opinion once again. There's various types of opinions, disclaim, adverse, all not good. We want unmodified, and that's what the village received. So that's an important part, that 3-page letter at the very beginning. With that, I'll get you some numbers, and I'm going to start on page 17. Page 17 shows our 3, what we call governmental funds. The 3 governmental funds in the village are the general fund, the major street fund, and the local street fund. We'll start kind of focus at the bottom line. Actually, is our it's labeled excess efficiency of revenues over expenditures. You can see for the general fund this year, we had a decrease in fund balance of 183,617. You can the 2 lines below that, you can see where we started the year with fund balance at 682,000, and ended at just under 500,000. One of the things, a couple things I'll note on that for the general fund this year. Historically, I've given you a percentage kind of fund balance as a percent of your operating expenses. And this is where the math doesn't necessarily work out in situations like this. If you were to look back at this year's expenditures compared to a lot of other years, they're much higher, mainly because of the project, the Hiawatha project. So start again from the bottom. If you look the 5th line up under expenditures, culture and recreation, you can see $866,000. That's over half of our budget for the year. Obviously, that's not normal in a standard year. So for me to say, well, you've got 500,000, you divided by 1.5 million, you only have 33% fund balance. I don't think that that's an accurate depiction of where you're really at. Historically, looking back, your culture and recreation expenses are somewhere between 70 and 100,000 instead of 866. So if we back off 800,000 or 700,000 of those expenses, somewhere in there, your percentage of fund balance is going to be in that 50 to 60% range instead of the 33, which I would normally calculate for you. So I think we're still in a healthy position. I wouldn't want to necessarily say, yeah, we're going to take this percentage and use it, because again, it's just not the most accurate number. So I've given that number in the past, so I didn't want you to think I forgot about that metric, but that's kind of why I'm not necessarily going to focus on it so much tonight. I think the key takeaway there is, from the general fund standpoint, you're still in a pretty good spot. You spent into the fund balance the last couple of years. I think it's something probably worth keeping an eye on. You can do the math. I mean, we couldn't, continue to have a decrease in fund balance of 180,000 for 5 or 6 more years. We don't have that capability. We could probably do it for 2 years. I don't know how I recommend that, but we can withstand that. So still in a good spot, but the numbers are a little bit skewed this year due to the project. So moving across the page, major street fund, there wasn't a whole lot going on in the major street fund this year in terms of big projects. You typically would see some ebbs and flows in those funds, major and local, depending on the year. Just so happens that for the 2024 year, there wasn't a whole lot going on. So we have a pretty good size increase in fund balance in the major street fund. That went up by 92,000 roughly. Local street, on the other hand, you can see that there was almost double the expenses in local street versus major. 83,000 of expenses versus 45,000 in the major. So a little bit more going on there. And that's if we look down towards the bottom again, you can see the impact there on the bottom line, which is a decrease, small decrease in fund balance. Both of those funds have, in my opinion, a lot of fund balance. So I kind of talked to Ron, I think, towards the end of December when he was talking about the budget, or we were discussing the budget a little bit. You know, as much as we can push through those major and local streets and even sidewalks, I think I brought that up to Ron and that's part of the budget process. Sidewalks can be paid for with those funds. So if there's a sidewalk along a major street, go ahead and use the major street funds and take some pressure off the general fund dollars. Those are restricted money. They have to be spent on certain things. So if we have an opportunity to spend that restricted money on restricted things and save our unrestricted funds for other things, that's the way to go. So I think Ron incorporated that into his budget for 25. Any questions on page 17? All right, flip over to page 22. These funds are presented a little bit differently. They're business type activities. So this is our water fund, our sewer fund, and then also on the far right hand side is the motor pool fund or the equipment fund. Has equipment rented out for all the funds actually. So a couple items of note here. Again, starting at the bottom, changing net position, third line up. Water fund, increase in fund balance for the net position of 140,000. One of the things that's weird with the water and the sewer funds that we have to always take into account is that these funds record depreciation. So we could have put infrastructure in the ground. Well, we put a lot of infrastructure in the ground in the last 5 to 10 years in the village. But what happens with that is it gets depreciated over time. So if we put $1 million system in the ground, we take that over a 50-year time period. So it's not necessarily cash going out. And if you look almost smack dab in the middle of the page, maybe slightly higher than that, it's the last operating expense there, depreciation. So we have $201,000 of depreciation in the water fund and $211,000 of depreciation in the sewer fund. So as a council, you know, we just have to make sure we realize that those are not cash out expenses. That's not where the funds we just looked at, general, major, local. That's by and large, that's pretty much cash coming in, cash going out. Whereas this water sewer fund is different. And for that reason, typically I will have you look at page 24, which is the cash flow statement. You won't find a cash flow statement for the general fund, the major street fund, and the local street fund, but we do present them for the water and sewer fund. Again, third line up from the bottom. You can see for the water fund for this year, we had a decrease in cash of 41,000. For the sewer fund, we had an increase in cash of 72,000. Those are pretty good numbers. You have a fair amount of cash in both of those funds. But if, as council members, this is the statement I'm looking at to try to figure out how we're doing in these funds. To take it a step further, you could consider looking up towards the top under the very first section of the 6th line down, net cash provided or used by operating activities. So that really kind of segregates the segments of these funds and says, all right, how are we doing operationally? What are we charging the users of the system, and how are those funds being expended? And you can see both of those funds, water and sewer, are positive operationally. There's some debt involved, which takes cash, obviously, and that's the next section down below. But operationally, I would say that these funds are operating appropriately in terms of how things normally go and how I would like to see them. So, any questions on that? All right. We will flip to page 45. The budget this year, so page 40, 44, 45, if you can look at these in conjunction with each other. They have to flip the report a little bit. The budget this year was very well done, for the most part. There was very few overages. The one, that we had a big overage on was the actual park project, the Hiawatha project. Um, so we were over budget on that by quite a bit, and it makes its way through the report in several different spots. But what I wanted to focus on is, again, third line up from the bottom, my favorite thing. On page 45, you can see the actual column. So this, how this is presented is the original budget is on the far left, our amended budget's middle. Actual results, which are the same results we just looked at, on page 17, and then a variance with the final budget. So at one point or another, our final budget showed that we were gonna, spend into fund balance by 409,000. And we actually ended up at the 183, which we discussed earlier. So you'll see in that variance column as a positive is a $225,000 variance to the good. And that's again, third line up from the bottom under the net change in fund balance on the left-hand side. So, I think Ron, when he prepares the budget, he's pretty conservative in terms of, this is kind of worst case scenario type of a thing. I believe the 2025 budget shows that you're gonna spend in the fund balance by about 300,000. But I wanted to point out that that rarely comes to fruition in terms of actually, actually ending up with that big of a negative number. Part of that is a byproduct of the way the state sets up the system. You can't be over budget, so you've got to kind of inherently build in a little bit of fluff on some of those things and at least see where things go, and then you can dial them in to get a little closer to the end of the year with the amendments. But all in all, the budget was well done. I have no real issues with that. So, page 47. Page 47 is the two component units, which is the DDA and the Recreation Authority that are reported under the village's audit. They have their separate governance, but they are considered component units, and they're reported here. So on page 47, you can see how both of these funds or both of these authorities did this year. The DDA had a decrease in fund balance of 49,000. And the Recreation Authority had an increase in fund balance of just under 81,000. So, obviously those, they're kind of in place to enhance the village. The DDA especially has, kind of, again, with some of the bigger projects, tends to ebb and flow a little bit in terms of fund change in fund balance. Sometimes we see increases and then we have a big project or something that causes some decreases, but all in all, pretty good shape on the component unit as well. So, any questions for me on the numbers before I talk about the two letters real quick, and then I'll. All right. First letter, communication with those charged with governance at the conclusion of the audit. I can't find a typo on this letter. In case anybody already else found it, trying to get ahead of those. I've been on the stand before and called out on a typo. Second paragraph, we reference a library in there, so I will make sure that gets in before we submit this to the state. But the comments, this first letter is a letter I use to just kind of communicate some things to keep heads up on. My comments here start on the bottom of the second page of this letter. I talked to Ron about this first one, approval of salaries and wages. I have no problem with the delegation of those salaries and rates, pay rates and such, to Ron. He can make those decisions if that's what the council wishes. I just mentioned to him, I think it's in his best interest and the council's best interest to know what those rates are, at least on an annual basis, whether that's at the budget time, whatever that looks like. Some of the, just a rate schedule, so that you're aware of it. And more or less to, also protect Ron from making a decision and then having that backfire on him at some point. So I would like to see that at some point, just in the budget or a part of your budget that the council has reviewed and approved those rates or in some capacity. It doesn't have to be anything. I don't need them listed out or anything like that, but I would just like to see that if possible. Credit card transactions, this comments in about every audit I do, quite frankly. Governments are exempt from sales tax. Everybody needs a credit card anymore, and you can't hardly do anything without it. And a lot of times that becomes difficult to exempt yourself from sales tax on those transactions. Sometimes, to be honest with you, a lot of times it's more hassle than what it's worth. You spend an hour to try to save $2 sales tax. I understand it, but I continually say it just as a reminder that, if we can avoid it, avoid it. If we're reimbursing people, we shouldn't be reimbursing sales tax. That's just unfortunately the way it goes. I understand reimbursements will happen in the course of business. Ron put something on his personal credit card. Ron's not sales tax exempt. When you pay Ron back, unfortunately, Ron doesn't get hopefully get credit card points. He's not getting his sales tax. So that's just the way it goes. On the next page, towards the top, or at the top, the council should look at the budgets for the component units. So the DDA and the Recreation Authority should both be adopting budgets, and we weren't able to track down the Recreation Authority's budget. So just as a reminder, they kind of fall under you a little bit, even though they have their own board. So I think as council, you should ask to see that budget and give your A-OK on that. Equipment rent, reconciliation recording. The state changes those rates every year. There's some minor changes. We did note some minor discrepancies on some of the equipment rent. It's a big deal just in the fact that, it's a way to get, going back to my comments earlier about restricted funds and unrestricted funds. You can charge, so the village charges rent to, for example, a major street fund. And that money essentially becomes unrestricted money to the village. You're just charging yourself a rent, but it's a legal way that the state's designed to get money from a restricted fund to a non-restricted fund. So it is important to get as much as you can on those. Those rates change at the beginning of every year. So just be cognizant of that. And then the budget amendments, I think you guys approved budget amendments. When we were looking through it, we had a little bit of difficulty trying to track which accounts actually got amended and by how much. So I don't think that it didn't get done. I just think that as far as the minutes, I don't come to every meeting. So if we do read all the board minutes, and if we can see those in there clearly noted which account, what got amended, it's open for us. Any questions on that letter?
So on budget amendment, so when we make budget amendment, so that's like on the water fund, you like have the red coming out of the 101 water fund budgeted so much money.
Yeah, because I think it makes its way to the system, but there's a step in there, so it happens here, and then I don't always know that just because that's in the computer system that you know what I mean. I'm making a leap of faith to a certain extent, and I can't ever really have anything to reconcile. So they give me a amended budget from the computer, which I pretty much have to take as, yeah, exactly. I just need to track those and make those just to verify. The last letter, a lot of the same comments I've been in the past couple of years. The first two, I think I probably mentioned it before. Accounting standards aren't written for small municipalities with, 2 or 3, 4 people in an office. They expect you to have 20 people in here in the accounting, and that's just not financially feasible for most of the places that I audit. Unfortunately, that doesn't get us out of some of these comments, which is, outsourcing the preparation of the financial statements to me, lack of segregation of duties in some places. And then the third comment was proposed material journal entries. We did have to make one pretty sizable adjustment to some of the water and sewer billings. I think there was one major issue with those this year, but that happened, I think, at the very beginning of the year. And in general, the issues that we noted related to water and sewer billings were a lot less this year than they have been in the past. So, we do a pretty significant amount of testing on those, and we found less this year for sure. So the last comment is at the bottom of the third page, and it talks about the material or unfavorable budget variance, which I mentioned earlier with related to the Hiawatha project. And if you really go deep into that Hiawatha project, you know, it was because we looked at the impact on the very bottom line, which is a positive variance. We didn't budget for all the revenue and we didn't budget for all the expenses. It was basically just a wash, but unfortunately, those were reported separately, so we're over. Last comment, you did have just over $750,000 in federal revenue, so we did have to do. We tried to skirt around the single audit threshold because some of the dollars that were put you over the 750 were ARPA. We were able to do a compliance examination, which I thought might be easier, but I'm not sure in the end how much easier it truly was. So we did have to do some extra work just due to the fact that you were over 750,000. I think we did that several years ago for a couple of years with the water project, and I think we were off of it for maybe a year or two, and then this year we trickled back over. Any final questions or thoughts or anything for me?
No, Trent, thank you for preparing this for us and excellent job once again.
Thank you. Appreciate the time. Appreciate you guys allowing me to come and be of service to the village. I just say I go to a lot of these meetings, and I actually, you know, I was sitting here thinking, well, this is kind of going a little bit long, but on the other hand, I'm thinking, you know, you guys are. I could really truly see the investment and some of the things you guys got going on here are truly unique. I go to some meetings and it's just like, you know, people checking boxes, going through the motions. So I think it's kind of cool what you guys got going on. And I like that you guys are passionate about this and putting time out a lot of these things that a lot of municipalities that I deal with just don't care about. So but I think that's cool.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Please return these all for Ron tonight. You can't take you home, bring the stairs out. Okay. Next item is resolution. Support control PA 233, Mr. Hall.
Yes, that's more about, I was looking at a resolution to support local PA 233. A couple of attorneys, yeah, past the window, you know, will it, how much impact it will have, because, you know, uncertain, it won't hurry, you know, to have a resolution. Went ahead and added a resolution, drafted for you to look at, tonight. It was something that you want to look at and able for next month, or you want to go after it tonight. It's there for your.
Once the whole book out, I'm going to make a motion for full 2 or 3 resolutions in this room.
Second. First, second.
Thank you. I want to say that I appreciate you for the time to do it, because I know that it's not looked at as a huge impact, but also like I said, it's going to hurt. So I appreciate that you took the time, because I think it is important for us to show that we see we're in the other place, if we ever people. I just wanted to say it. I appreciate that.
Carrying on first, second, may I get any approval in favor of say all? Approve.
It is our level call.
Oh. There's been a lot. Yeah, thank you. One way? Yeah. You go now. You go.
Yeah.
You go. Right?
Yeah.
No. Okay, next item will be new business social district application resolution for the fire.
If you remember last month, you passed a resolution accepting the application for Green's Tavern in order to be identified as one of the businesses within social district that we serve drinks. We have two more tonight. We need to deal with these separately. So you have two resolutions. One, the first one is for the already built. You may entertain a motion for food, John.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Irish Guild application for the Village of Roscommon Social District.
I'll second the motion.
Yeah, first, second. Any difference? If not, just get a simple vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion. Second one will be for social district application for Friends of Roscommon.
Okay, thank you. Same thing for calendar application. And be the third business that would be identified in our social district. I entertain a motion to support
I'll make a motion to support Friends of Roscommon for the application to the Village of Roscommon Social District.
Yeah, first and second. Okay. And for second, simple vote. All in favor? Aye. Motion. Next item is police and Benrick USDA change order number 10.
This change order here came about as we're finishing up some of the pump station connections and such. They actually budget and give us some more $5,000 that cost material and given less. So the change order is one that you still have to approve, even though it's not coming at a cheaper amount.
Okay, may I get a motion to approve the RCL change order number 10 for $2,755 and 0% for credit.
I'll make a motion to the RCL change order number 10 for $2,755 credit.
The first, can I get a second, please?
Second.
Now, first and second, any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Schmeckel? Yes.
Ready?
Yeah.
Mitchell? Yeah.
Goodwin? Yes. Lovely?
Yeah.
Behold?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. The next item will be a USDA RCL payment application for $19,106.35.
Okay, this is to pay RCL for their home station services, for the waste, their hookup for the generator, and one of the last things in the Sugar State project, even this morning, we're from all of that USDA grant. And so we have them down to the final payments out here. So I didn't get a motion to pay RCL $19,106.35.
I'll make that motion to approve the payment of $19,106.35 to RTL Construction Company for work completed on our USDA project. You got a first, can I get a second, please? I'll second. You got a first, second, any discussion? If none, roll call, please. Miller? Yes. Bishop? Yes. Ludwig? Yes. Keel? Yeah. Lee? Yes. Woodward? Yeah. Okay. Next item is the planning commission. Council work session.
Along with the resolution to support to oppose PA 233, we talked about maybe having some language added to our zoning ordinance to make a little more restrictive for these companies coming in and put in either it's a solar farm or turbines or the big thing now that is that we have more battery storage facilities. A battery storage facility doesn't need 300 acres. They can have 5 acres, and certainly we got temple land within the village. I reached out to Denise Klein. Denise Klein, if you remember, is the young lady that helped us 10 years ago. Or now was about 7 years ago when we redid our master plan. Worked in that time. Greece is like the moon now on renewable energy, and she travels around the state and gives advice and direction to municipalities on what kind of language they should have, ordinances and such. Greece is going to present a week from tonight at our planning commission meeting, and she got there some sample language for us to look at for the control, if you will, of property and how it's utilized in renewable energy. She she is very familiar with our zoning ordinance, and she was the one that helped us write that. So we talked for a couple of areas and some language that could fit there. So she'll be presenting that to the planning commission in 1 week. Now, let's just say the planning commission eventually approves that language, then what will happen is that's a change in the ordinance we have to go through, as far as, posting it and such, and all three of it will come back to the council. Final. So anyways, let you know, I forgot about that part of it, but you're more than welcome, to attend that. Also, in May, it would be, I don't have my calendar on me, it would be the May, planning commission meeting. As you know, we've been working on this housing, project with, Redstone. Redstone would like to do a presentation at the May, planning commission meeting. They also want me to extend invitations to any of you that like to attend that meeting, further, so we don't have to come up and present twice. You know, everyone can hear the same thing, you know, at one time. I'll get emails out to you to remind you. So it will be you know, next month, and May 19th. Monday, May 19th will be the planning commission meeting at 5:30. Public's welcome, and if the council like to show up, we can call that a work session where again you can listen and ask questions and things that have nothing decided, and for the planning commission, it'll be their regular meeting. What is it? The housing. The whole, I want to present the site plan, talk about what they're going to put up as far as the infrastructure goals, especially kind of to get into the bare bones. So if we were playing poker, it would be a time with both sides and showing their cards.
So that work session for this planning council is, what time is that on Monday? 5:30. Monday the 19th.
Yeah, May 19th.
And next one, 4/21 next week, right? The next week is about 20. Yeah, 5:34. Yeah. To go over the language area for the solar approach. That's next Monday. Next Monday here.
Yeah.
That's us, or when you can use it volunteer.
Yeah, I
show. No, it's a council work session. Okay, okay.
Yeah, and Monday, I just, if you want to give it to me, fine, has to say in regards to renewable energy and what type of language we want to put in our zone manual. And then the following one is the housing.
Okay. Could be religion. The next item will be Kirkland Former Sculpture matching donation proposal withdrawal.
Okay, as you know, and Jim said very correctly that Amanda's been really tracking the whip on this community work and in the Burton City recognition. She deserves a lot of credit for that. She deserves all the credit for that. I mean, Jim and I said, she said, what do you think about this? Oh, good to me, you know, they well, she drew, you know, so she's an incredible young lady. So what she's doing now and seeking funding for that, she has went to the DDA. She has applications out with different groups of Rotary, New Foundation, and different things and trying to, generate a little funding for that. We're about halfway there, Jim, is that?
Little over.
A little over. So what she came up with, is if the council would consider some of these places that she's, going to try to generate some donation. If the council would consider matching what is donated not to exceed $5,000. Okay. I would say the way she goes about things, but that's $5,000, but she has it set up where she can use that for a tool when she goes out to some of these different groups and say, hey, whatever you do, the village council is willing to match it, so with her fundraising, format and set up, and I guess I'd like to hear what your thoughts are in regards to that. Jim, is there any more?
Did you say that, there was an opportunity with the marijuana money that they were, the money of that funding available for?
Every year for the 500s to stay in business, they have to know their license with us. They have a $5,000 bill, okay? And we were talking today that I could earmark that money set aside and use that, so it's nothing, even though we didn't budget for this. We just a plan for just for that money, it's just to put that back into our we're in, general fund. So yeah, so we could utilize that. We know we're gonna get that back on stuff.
When did that come in?
The end of this month.
Oh, okay, so it's more, it'll be ready and available for it.
Yes.
So what's not next one? Sign most of the numbers. You're pretty sure we get that.
Yes.
Well, through the scope for matching donation, all amounts. I'll second that. Yeah, I definitely, comments, I would definitely like to use that money. Sounds like an excellent use of that. How you can be doing that budget for something else.
What's that, with that extra revenue, account, so it would be, the time of this is pretty good that I can just, when that check comes in, when I start around and you just budget it for to regularly with that. That's.
So we have a first, second, that's already been discussed out. So now just take this in mind that any group can come in every year and ask for that $5,000. We do open up doors for that. So it's an ongoing donation we make somewhere for the community. Just to let you know. If we approve that, so that's a good way to think about that. Because that's $5,000 it's a general fund now, if we approve, so it won't be just general fund. It'll be a donation. To be up for donation, we're gonna put up,
Line item as a community project or something like that, and so,
budget up. There were. It's all across on the dimension of how it goes out, but it went through. Found out a limit, like the raw can use it for their track and that kind of thing for that. But let's do that. Let's go, come on down. Let's make it. They have the ability to either divide it out or have presentations and pick 1 of 5, let's say. I think it's a great idea. It's something that's not, we just come in and money. Or if that's, we don't have to necessarily see it's not on value, but just that you last $1. Once that goes into our general fund, it doesn't have to be necessarily that $1,000 that gets. But once it's in our general fund, then it's just a donation for this particular fund.
Yeah, then you don't set a precedent.
And you're not setting precedent for that money. Put it to the general fund and then take it from general. It's. I'm sure the earmark, somebody's not an earmark, it's not an earmark. I'm saying this one, right? That's a good company. It's a nice house, it should be. Yeah, you don't wanna, yeah, it's up in front of us, or here, till late eternity, here without money. Well, it's until, yeah, marijuana. Looks out, I think, there. People. So, I like your. Well, these options, we're not, we have this in case anything on our motion, we're gonna. Considering us losing the 500 things. That could go into the general fund and pull money from. I would say. Like, let's go like it, so that's like making sure we're. We'll deal with that.
Okay, I got a first and second. To approve $5,000 matching grant for the donation for Christian Work Fund. Yeah, first, second, roll call please.
Well,
Yes.
Miller,
Yeah.
Roddy. Yes.
Pinto,
Yeah.
Michael,
Yeah.
Edward, People.
Yes.
Okay, the next item is discussion item for flat plan, Mrs. Smith.
So, who's called? Just to clear up, so we see. Wait, from. Ron. Regarding how we were asking this to be put on the agenda. So I just printed off the email forum violation for Open Meetings Act, just so we kind of all are on the same page with that. And I'll read kind of how we can ask for it to collectively. There's, that's one, so we ask for it to be collectively, as it's all put on the agenda. And it was stated that we were kind of like borderline violating the open meeting. And so it's this, because it's so clear that it has to, there must be some level of center issue, public policy being presented. And in our email, we had village resident reach out to all the council. And I feel like sit there a little bit, and then I responded. And my response was, I appreciate your input. I do think this would be something worth discussing. Policy and procedure are important to guide operations and create consistency. Council trustees, your thoughts on adding this as a discussion item to the agenda would be greatly appreciated. And I just got, so these were the responses. Seems like a reasonable subject to add to the agenda. I believe it would be advantageous to have a clear policy. I would appreciate some discussion on how things are done currently. Sounds good to me. Let's discuss it. Sure. And let's discuss it. So I just want clarification, I guess, that this doesn't seem to me like it is violating the Open Meetings Act. Because if this is violating the Open Meetings Act, I feel like when you send out an update run and someone replies, thank you for the update, to reply all, that could also violate the Open Meetings Act. So I wanted to kind of, I don't know if you were part of these emails. So I just wanted to like clarify that based on what I feel from you, I don't feel like the Open Meetings Act is being violated.
Our attorney said that we gotta make sure. Yeah, it's too easy to voice your opinion or to add something instantly, you know, and that you got a thought on it, you remind us to be careful.
Yeah, I don't think this violated the Open Meetings Act. I think we just gotta be careful. Stepping anything other than yes, let's discuss it. It'd be stepping into.
That was the point that I was trying to make, you know,
Yeah, if we were trying to create a policy together.
Yeah.
Exactly. It should say this, it should say that, that'd be a problem. Yeah, but we're just agreeing on something that would add for that.
Rather err than caution.
Yeah, absolutely, that's 100% true, yeah.
And I'm wondering, Ron, just giving us updates, that's not, referring to that. I don't think we could compare that to what happened.
As long as you're not just,
That's an update, you're not
Yeah.
asking to make decision making thing.
as long as we're not discussing what you. No, general, general email.
Those things,
Nothing at all. But not like this, I don't think it violates anything, I think it was just a good reminder though. I know, I'm thinking on more than that. Well, so just to throw it out there, say, hey, we're getting close to that, here's what I don't know.
Okay.
That's what I should, yeah, that's exactly what
So I just. And go back and forth with it, because I don't wanna be the only one that is dreaming things. Like, I'd like to have more of a collaboration. Or at least like, hey, this is something that sounds like it needs to maybe be discussed. What do other people think? And not like discuss it in, but like, do we get it on the agenda to discuss? But I do see your point. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of get clarification that I didn't feel like this was a violation of the Open Meetings Act. So, let's move on to the actual items. I guess I want to discuss this more so because now that we're looking at the numbers, and Ron did give us some numbers. And then knowing that Trent referred to our errors. I know that he said that they were maybe year at, but it seems like a common theme that with Flat Rock having, we have issues with the bill. And then when you give us these numbers of only 14%, and then by January, only 30 or only 6%, then I guess I'm actually like wondering, do we even need a lot run? Or if we do need a lot run, would it be beneficial to have a policy that outlines how it is calculated? Because here you say it's run with your information, you say the residents that use the let run are billed by what they used the prior year. But I believe that Fran has said that if she takes a 3-month, so I'm now not even clear like how a 3-month estimate. So then if there's 2 different ways of it being billed, that might be the problem. So I feel like there's enough out there that of people that are having issues with their billing during the let run, that it needs to maybe be somehow more direct.
So the billing, the prior year, or was it the prior 3 months?
You can compare December with December, March and March. And 1 year here.
Okay.
so it's 55, it's not when you're fine.
Right. Okay.
Well, yeah, the person would have run previous December and January, that would falsely elevate it again. Yeah. Which we didn't do that.
No.
They'd have a lot of pressure. They'll have.
Fran, what is the difference? My bill, I don't look at the bill. I like let water run, I don't.
My own version.
Yeah, right. What are we talking? What do you mean? Difference in the bill. $100, so we can get $100, or $10. If I don't.
I don't know that we shouldn't be.
$20, no more. Okay, that's what's close. $20 lots the more I heard is what is the error?
What is it called? If someone gets an error, what kind of extra are they paying? Is it 100, 200? How much?
Hundreds.
Hundreds.
So is that correct? Just do that grade up.
We put in the information.
That's an anomaly, right? Yes.
Like, that's why you're only so many people in the we have very few if we had to jump. Can be man. I don't know. No one heard any very much. So we're see if you're on the left, you see that every day. And then you do it. Jump down around to the house and stream.
For sure. We can get $10 every hour.
just to refer back to what Trent said, at the beginning of the year, the first 2 months, that was a meter, how it was programmed. If you remember correctly, Trent brought that to, or we did, or whoever was here, brought that to your attention, that there was an issue with like several meters. They were reading incorrectly. We fixed it. It was fixed. It was adjusted. It came from company. They made good on it and fixed it all. That's where that big difference was to the water sewer. What we based that on before the bills went out is who was on the wet run, who was on our alarm that day. Then we went into the computer. We only did an estimated bill for 1 month, and that was for February. From January's usage. We took it off the list of people that were on the alarm. We adjusted it to what their bill had been the year prior. When we first sent out that estimated bill, we were told when we first started here, do the last 3 months. Census told us go back to the last year. So then we did that, and that's how we adjusted it accordingly. Because we had a home resident say, I'm still watering flowers and stuff in October. So we took October, November, December as an average and put that as an average on the. Before the bills went out, we adjusted those bills accordingly, but there was still a few that got through that weren't on the let run. Don't ask me why. It's all in the computer. The computer does it all, not us. So just so you know, unless it's brought to our attention, we can't adjust it. If there's an issue with it, we'll be more than willing to adjust it if it coincides with, I do a force read on it that month, and that's what you're billed on. That's what I tried to explain last night.
So you don't feel like it would be advantageous to have some kind of like just flat thing that you guys don't have to sit and figure out this and that and what?
We don't. What we do is on those bills, now that the estimate is over, I can put in your account number, put it in the computer, put January 1st to January 31st, or 30th, whatever month it is, and it'll give me a force read. I'm gonna take that read, deduct it from what you used, and then I'll compare it to your last year's read, and that's what your bills are. It's within $2 and $3 of what you paid. And I look it over too to make sure it's not way out there from what you have.
So
Then in
well, then are we getting these number of people that are having?
see them, right? On social media and stuff, you can see them.
Are you following you? That are like, yeah, being brought in and they fixed it. And saying, look, I don't know. It's just, why not fix the problem versus having people have to come and go,
It's kind of, well, we just got all this new system in the last 2 years.
It's kind of working
So,
itself, which isn't so great.
I mean, all the new years are fixed and everything should be. When we know these companies, the key results.
Waiting for 2 years, Subway's one. So what we do for that, when we go out and get a read, and then I compare it with last month's read, you subtract it, that's what they paid.
I got a $200 bill for my water bill. I called Tammy and said, Tammy, and she said, oh, and you must adjust it. So I didn't report, if they're concerned, they're concerned about.
Just concerned that they have to,
Make that one phone call?
yeah, I'm like, yeah, I should just be able to pay my bill.
This 521 water. We might get 5 feet more, 1%. So, I mean, for 1%, 99% is working on pretty good. Well, each way is no longer level.
And then pay for your.
We really, looking at the numbers, do we really need it?
But what about those?
Yeah, when I first moved to the village, they burst.
I think my birds and I pulled line again.
Doug said, But at some point, the homeowner has to take responsibility for their own, yes, problem. And I don't mean that disrespectful at all. We will do whatever we can to help out. But there's not an issue every stinking month. Not every that I get. It's discouraging to hear that because we do such a good job for the residents, and we're what cops, what fix if there's something wrong. It's not a computer, we can change that. I mean, we can change like the if they were charged and were charged, and we use it every single month.
Well, I'm here for that service, will not that like picture. So we need some.
Someone. The stuff in the computer. Oh, the camera would do it.
There's so many stupidness and some has craziness in the computer. When there's nothing, just clicking,
Might be the other one. Here. Once, twice again.
It's a nice service.
Census, the guy that I work with on the phone, he says, what I've been doing a let run, even though you should have a problem, the homeowner takes care of one and do that, and keeps it, shouldn't have a problem. We have,
So maybe that's not the issue. The ground froze up in 1994, now let me tell you. So that much, no. I don't know. That's the moving and moving machine at that time. I for 17 hours and couldn't go on out. And so I went from the 10th of February when it froze to the 16th of April till I got water back naturally. And I had notes from my neighbor's house over down my steps and into my system and have. So,
this new system, I should clarify that, with our new system.
well, there's a like you say, you're never gonna have a problem.
Exactly.
You're gonna have the gas issue was somewhere in the middle of the road, type through. I don't get it much, because they. So it looks like my phone's right now. We got no phone there. You must stop getting rid of 1400 hours. I think it's starting to $5 can, starting to let's go run it every third. Or nobody knows what. I have some things to say. We're not living anymore. We never know about it. Just. Because of our elevation on Earth. Wait, but you know, the sewer lines and water lines, and they can't work, no problem. What is a normal charge for a plumber to not do that?
Oh, I don't know that you get a normal charge, but I would say. If he's out there for 2 hours, you're probably looking at least $250.
What's this one? The guy doesn't
The
have
plumber
the
to
guy
not
goes
right
out.
from our system. Oh, where's the computer? You know, go when you show up. Yes.
Yeah.
And one thing to add to that too, going back to what Dan just said. The village is not responsible for anything from the curb stop to the house. That's the owner's responsibility.
Maybe there's that, I guess. Looking at,
It's also a cruel thing.
and looking at the low number of people that do the let. What, on average, what does the let run raise? If you did an adjust, what would their bill?
Honestly, Jennifer, I saw some that I told them and said, turn your faucet down a little bit because you're wasting away. Your bill's gonna be astronomical. I'm telling you right now, and I can't adjust that. Turn it down, and then some are like $5, $10.
Someone that turns off.
Yes,
Okay. Anyway, yeah, that was my brother. But it's just. Yes.
yeah.
Everybody's house is different, so you don't have to open up the kitchen sink because your wiring comes in under your bedroom.
Yeah.
I used to.
Of course.
Right, I mean, it's never gonna slide. Slide a house. There's all kinds of people that
That's how, that's how I think.
If you see the decrease in the people utilizing the level. Yes, did it use it? I mean, I guess you wouldn't know for sure, but it could have been because of the errors in.
No,
I think it's what.
and I can show you sometime the alarm would get, well, sorry. Yeah.
People don't realize that. I mean, like over the years, like when you look back, how long you don't do it behind the year, correct? Once the last time we did. God, yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay.
The last 2 years have been cool.
January, this year.
Yeah, Denver.
Actually, it was starting to get in there in December. We held off a little bit.
So another thing too is when we were only getting so many people on the run on the alarms every day, I looked into it a little bit and I'm like, what's going on here? And it started at 76, the next day was 54, and then it went down to 33 or 34, whatever it was. And then I'm like, what's going on? What changed? It did get a little warmer, then it got cold. The homes were not even using their 2,000 gallons. So it wasn't raising them over that threshold to be on. You know, they were on, but it didn't give them a lot of usage. So it kept them under that threshold.
When we get really cold weather, I'll do mine at night, just at night. Yeah, would mine ever even register in the run? With that?
Yeah, and it's consistent. It's less cold than what it is too.
Yeah, I guess.
My problem is, yeah.
Like troubleshooting and finding root common houses, any problems, you get out of the radio charge. Like, how much work would it be to say, do it for a couple of months? If we get 5 phone calls about it, right? Would it be that hard to track and say, I got a phone call on this date, they're telling you a little. Let your child just keep a track, says I got a phone call from this person on this day, this problem, right? And it's whenever there's 3 problems, we sure gotta say, well, geez, it appears to be, this is the cause. This is how you get.
We put it in our comments, I
Yeah.
print a report tomorrow.
Yeah, and so, I mean, it seems to be.
Yeah.
There's a lot of social media stuff going on. Let's figure it out, what if
Yeah.
it's 3 or 4 or 5 people? It's
Always the same
population. Yeah, like, let's take a look at, it, see what those.
I don't do a lot of the social media, I don't do Joe, I don't believe with it.
Birds,
So I heard the one thing that was. Very soon.
Council members, like. This day and age, that's where. Like, we are here to represent the people out there, absolutely, and so. If we can't go knocking on doors or sending out letters. We can connect with these people on social media, and I'm not saying that they're like.
Just make sure it's positive on social media, because it's our job reflection on there, and sometimes it comes out harsh.
I mean, and that's just how everything's going to. And so when I first went, let's fix it up. There were some like here. Like, I want to say something else. They were just like, this is medical, right? It, fix it. But it was quick fix. It's not like they're like, yeah, that was so terrible. They don't do anything. But it seems to be an issue, but it is. It's literally. It's like, why not try to?
Okay, Dan, we got one. Prior to 1994, I didn't bring that house in the fall of '87. So I had been there, 5 years, never had. Never had snow. The 3rd year we didn't get snow. I mean, we got snow, it wasn't in the mountain. And it was heavy.
That's where we started.
And
Snow actually been insulated.
now this year we got snow later on.
Once you get the frost in there and the snow on top of it, yes, it's snow wind speed. Yeah, but if you get the snow on top, once the frost is there, we just keep pushing this out.
The other thing I would add is that with the Lebanon policy, or not a policy, but I would say it wouldn't hurt to create a procedure that indicates to all customers, right, we can share everything equals, that would say, in the event of a letdown, and I'm just throwing some words out here, but you know, we would review the prior year's use, or we would review the prior 90 days or 60 days and use that average. If we could just come up with some kind of language, it all has to be a paragraph that with the process launch people, what is your formula, right? Or standard.
Lot per year, fair,
You know,
it's right on.
yeah.
It's usually typically, it uses about the same amount of the same. You know.
It's crazy. House sold, right? So it's a family of 5 moved in, right?
Yeah. That'll
You know,
change.
that could change. So there are some variables that might impact you. But if we have just some standard language that said, this is how we're gonna
Yeah.
run the formula, run the calculations, then everybody is on the same sheet.
And I like how Doug said, the village isn't worried about their pipe streaming, it's a service to us. You know, and we are making them, so one phone call every 3 months or whatever, for this service to allow you to keep your pipes. I think that's a heck of a deal, and I don't think they.
Like you're in too, just remember, because you usually put that out. Right?
Yeah. Or we do a call. Yeah,
Just that same language you want, you know, in that all call, you know, what happened,
yeah,
you know, if you have any problems with the problem, then talk.
sure.
Okay, any more comments on the left front?
And if we see a large bill, we check them out. Always. I'll either check in out the force reach or do force reach. We'll find out what's going on here and try to if it investigate. If it wasn't, then they used extra water. I'm done. So.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Jeff, for bringing it to our knowledge and talking about it. Public health, 2 minutes for speaker anyway. Doug.
This is not from the DPW, this is just my own. I think most of you all know that I was working in the Lyon Township for over 4.5 years. Going back to some of the questions you guys just talked about on Open Meetings Act. As clerk, I was also in charge of the FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, and all that all had to correspond. Here's the advice I'm going to give you that I was given by one of the top law firms in the state. You can send an email to every one of you in a group email. Don't ever respond back to your file. It's as simple as it. If you never respond back, it's a reply all. You respond back to the original poster. That's it. You will not violate the Freedom of Information Act. But as soon as you start replying all, you start a discussion. Doesn't matter that you may not be making a decision, but you're going to depend on a court saying there was discussion and it already started. It's called polling.
There you go. Okay.
Not next one, come on. I know it's not your mom this morning. What? All right, I quit because, stop. You had some great discussion, and that's what it's about. In public, even if it takes a little bit longer, so. I just wanted to comment on a couple things that came forward tonight. One is the ARC GIS system. Great system. I know that the health department's really working hard to try to get all counties, everybody on this. Huge endeavor, cost a lot, so, but I do believe there's a lot of value in keeping all that data in one repository so people aren't reinventing the wheel every time, so that's pretty cool. The second piece is really around the victims crime unit. It was really exciting to see that tree decorated. I got a chance to meet with our victims crime unit. Just so you know, they don't get funding from anyone. They pay for it out of their own pockets. And they're at the Spruce. There are all these events that happen because that victim is getting left most of the time. Because all your first responders are doing the things or checks what they have to do, and that gets lost. That's very traumatic. It's just an incredible story to hear them. All they can bring. So I'm really excited to see that. If you ever go by, go check it out. Okay. Quick update on our goals. I guess to sum this up, they're lofty for different categories. We are still being held back by a lot of lawsuits because of lake level issues. It is one of our biggest goals is to create that lake level management plan, get it in place, and we'll please everyone and not spend hours and hours and dollars, a ton of money. We could have probably built a new structure by this point. But it's continuing and it is a hindrance for us to move forward, just so people know. With that, the other piece is really some key things we're going to do right now is we've got to review that budget and we're going over policies. There's things we have that no one knew about. There's things we don't have that we should have. That takes time. And it also depends on how many of your commissioners have the time and energy to start moving that forward quickly. It is a high priority for us right now. The second piece to that high priority is some of that trust factor of us coming and being more like office hours, kind of like state legislators do, except we actually do that. We be here. We may even move them outside of our offices and put them in the commissioner boardroom. So it's open. If people are walking by, the doors are open. Anybody who's walking by can come by, not just make an appointment as an event. So we're kind of playing through that as well. The social issues are going to take a while. Probably not our first on our priority right now. Not that it's not that we won't work on it. We're going to the RTA meetings so that we understand what's going on as well. So I be at the village, as well as housing, transportation, a lot around drugs and the home. I mean, we just have so many other issues that go on socially that they take a back burner and things are done haphazardly. So with our sheriff's department, with the Children's Assistance Center here, I'm sure you may all know that they are expanding that and taking over most of the crowd center. Key thing to remember is our emergency management system building will not change. They will still continue to be housed there for all emergencies, so they're not being moved. It's all part of the plan. Might be a little bit of it. The MISTA infrastructure grant that came out for some housing piece for infrastructure would probably be pretty nice. I know it's not something they could have jumped on at that last hour from a county perspective. And it's another reason why this collaboration on a lot of our things between RTA, what you guys are doing, what county is doing, working together on that. So maybe we're a little bit more better prepared going in the future. So maybe as a county, we have a little bit more leverage on there. So, was that 2 minutes or did I? Thank you.
You are. Okay, anybody else about, Mr. Bishop? No. Well, you have one.
I do. It really has to do with the solar and also has to do with the lake level. It's true. What I heard it comes so short. And we're thinking back to our state representative Wharton about support with up that 233 comment. Right? So we'll call you later. So we have two things that we are considering trying to have we'll sit down with key stakeholders. If you put it in public and it's like open, like they won't come because they're too afraid. It's my take, I'll put it in those words. It's my perception that they won't come. But if it is some of the key stakeholders within the townships, we need help with Eagle because Eagle got sued by Eric Osterman. And so they're declining a lot of the permits for us to fix the lake level, or they're dragging that out, never declined it. It's just now what this round one. So I would think that has a lot to do with it, but we need help there, and your legislators are the only ones that are going to help us with Public Act 233. Only ones that are going to help us with Eagle. They call that purse string. They have to do that help for us, no matter how much we say we don't like it. So if you guys are interested, from the president and the manager, if you guys say, hey, we'd like to be a part of having a roundtable with them, then let me know and we'll see if we can't get them here on a Monday or a Friday. Okay.
Anybody else? Now we're going to public comments. Starting with Miss Edwards.
Couple things I want to say, Ron, this is amazing, this whole budget thing. I was very impressed with all those numbers and keeping my ducks in a row and everything. Very, very, very nice. And Doug, everything that you do and you get all your reports in on before they're due and everything, thank you for that. And Jim, keep doing what you're doing.
Okay. Morning.
And she took all my.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Daniel. A lot of stuff on Facebook news article, they basically, and whenever I've been posting anything about Jim's Irish killed over here. I'm getting a tremendous amount of response from picking, like, I'm talking 60 to 100 people. Like, they're just can't wait till he gets that own stuff. And I wrote a story about Gary. Well, I was down there walking the dog, and there's Gary last Sunday grading the road down to the sewage station. And so I, holy heck, I wrote a story. I took some picture of a story. Story, pretty simple little story. And there again, I got over 60 comments from the huge wave. You know, I got these sites all over. Like I'm posting that stuff, and it's positive for them. Now, for Loder here, he was praising us for what we're doing, and I am directing that to Ron. I told Ron the other day, you know, I was first on the council in 1990, and I was on board, and I was off. But Ron's been the first manager that I've been around here that is not a problem. He is running a good show. I mean, we disagree. We don't always get along with him, but there's nothing. I remember fighting in here, people yelling back and forth, and these meetings are running smoothly, and people are buying into it. I actually didn't want Ron when he applied for the job. I was looking at a guy from Bay City, and I was wrong. But anyway, Ron's done a great job, and like I said, we don't all agree. We don't always agree, but that's what it's all about. And thanks. Okay, that's all I have to say. Ms. Snuckle.
I just want to say thank you to the council. We're willing to have discussion. Thank you, Kim, for coming and really am thankful to you here and giving us updates on what the commissioners are doing is important with us. And so I'm appreciative to see you here. Thank you, Doug, for all you do and answering my question. The most quick link, that's what I needed. That I'm a very direct learner. So that's definitely, that is what I need. So I appreciate it. And thank you to the public. I hope more and more coming. It's important to have the community here. And thank you, Tammy. Just for being Tammy.
Right. It's really different with all the extra stuff that they already do on it. You do the maybe job around here.
She's killed.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm right, our council actually is willing to discuss issues.
You remember some of those things.
Oh, I remember we had in the prior time I was on the council, we had rather heated discussions. And right about Ron, I mean, I was only here with one of the managers. It's much smoother. So, yeah, that's a couple. I thank everybody for coming.
Sure, good. No, I think it makes sense. Okay, I want to say thanks to Jim for everything he does. Keep promoting the community like you do. Yes, thanks to the management schools also. Mrs. Moore, thank you for your updates going on with commissioners and all the good information. Doug, thank you for your input every week. From what I call, I've talked to you about, help me get answers all the time. Girls and Ron, thank you for having a great hour. Get all the information up for Trent and everybody that needs to be there, how he does it. Cool and good remark on that end. Council, thanks for coming up to what we do. No arguing, just kind of getting that problem straight now. And to the public, please, if you have anything, please come up. We're always willing to listen to you. They were saying kumbaya.
You're leaving.
Official, so is it
Next, what's your next agenda?
We will probably have the marketing plan ready to go.
Yeah, I was talking, you said you had to reach. You couldn't find it in minutes. It was an old media. It's really, could you already been on Adobe Carl? Probably could have done so, maybe,
Yeah. So, we have that, we have, I'll give you up on, if they can't make the plan commission meeting on Monday. Give you an update what, each plan has, that is very, what kind of language we need to look at, regarding, renewable energy in our, zoning, orders.
and let's take a look at some of the water issues that maybe you brought. Can we do that too, Ron? Yeah. Chief, whatever report you might add.
that's maybe we're going to
Yes. Yeah,
don't remember.
maybe we can address it and see if there are any things to stop.
Or sure, a number, how many and that you're. Yes.
Anything else, sir? Darren McCarty still coming?
Yeah, Aaron McCarty is coming revenue cycle winner on Sunday. Well, her time for a couple weeks, 2 to 5 p.m. at the Armory, and we'll have it in private soft opening, invite only 3 hours prior to that, and then 2 to 5. So that'll be open to the public.
But that's not your grand opening though.
It's not the ribbon cutting grand opening, which is, we will only have, we'll have 3 beers on tap, on Sunday the 27th, but for the grand opening, we'll have like
27 here.
27 or something. Yeah, we'll keep this. Excellent. Okay. Moving from point existing in 20 seconds. Certainly. Okay, one more thing. For the agenda, and now, we're gonna move to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Thanks, everybody, for coming up. So you're gonna give them our problems. Joke.